Welcome back to the show. We're now joined by Cardinal defensive back Josh McLeod and wide receiver Joe Antonacci. Joe, just kind of how did last season feel for you guys? A lot of injuries, the loss in the season opener, and compare that to this season when you guys start off so well.
I think the biggest thing is, it was obviously tough losing our leaders at the beginning of the year, but we did get a lot of guys with experience, especially on defense. They had a lot of guys, young guys, step up and get playing time, and other leaders had to emerge. So I think that was kind of tough, but it's been good this year coming away with a victory. We go into the first game and kind of get to be cohesive as an offense and as a defense in a new system. So I think it's worked out pretty well, and it kind of gives us a little more confidence going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, the injuries in the first couple of games were just kind of like, I've never been a part of something like that where I remember, I don't know if it was 3 or 4, I know it was at least 3 of the captains had season-ending injuries, and just like, whoa. And even in the first game, I mean, it was my first game here, but when I saw Matt go down, just everyone was just kind of like, what, like deer in the headlights look, and we were just like, wow. So, I mean, it's nice coming away, like Joe said, in this first game with no serious injuries. I mean, just bumps and bruises, so.
With North Central, everyone talks about the offense. You guys 49 points a game last year, and you lose a quarterback, which is said to be the most important position in sports, and you guys go on clicking with a great day. Why is that?
I think the biggest difference, I mean, Aaron didn't have a very experienced receiving core last year, and he had 2 receivers that were very experienced, and Hank and Steve. But beyond that, we were all very young, and I think that's the biggest difference this year is Aaron had to carry us, and I think we can really help out a young quarterback this year in terms of having 3 or 4 guys with a lot of experience and just 4 or 5 more that are ready to play. So I think that's the biggest difference between this year and last year.
Yeah, and you talk about kind of having that experience on the receiving core. I know you're a guy that's been in special teams doing the punt returning, kick returning for a while now. How much has that part of your game helped when you transition, when you line up at wide out and say you need to get those yards after a catch?
I think the biggest thing for me is just the confidence. It kind of keeps you in the groove of the game, especially when I'm watching these guys on defense. I'm constantly trying to pay attention to how far I'm going to be standing back from the line of scrimmage, and it just kind of keeps me into the game a little bit more and making sure I'm keyed in when it's third down for them. And so I think more than anything, it just helps me kind of stay in the groove of the game and keep trying to break tackles and staying in there, because you never know how many catches you're going to get a game based on what the defense is giving you. It could be 0, it could be a few. So kind of keeps me into the game a little bit.
Exactly. And Josh, kind of move things over to the defensive side of the ball. You had 2 interceptions on Saturday, so obviously you played a pretty well game, and you guys as a whole unit played pretty well. What were some of the things you were seeing to be able to pick off those 2 balls, both in the red zone?
Well, we noticed that they kept throwing at 21 a lot, especially on whenever we'd blitz, that quick game and go to 21. So we actually made up a new call just during the game to for the safety to roll down to the number 21 side. And I was waiting for it all game because then I would actually miss a reroute, and I got graded down for it. But I was always waiting for the pick. I'd run right by because I thought a quarterback was going to go hot right to him. And then it just kind of worked out at the end. Right there, we blitzed off the end and threw right hot to 21. And I just stepped in front of it.
So just kind of recognizing that hot read and then just adjusting for you guys?
Yep, it's pretty much.
So, and another thing, we talked about the injuries you guys went through last year, and you have a veteran group on defense, and you guys give up that first touchdown, down 7-0, and then just shut them out the rest of the way. Was that just a point in time where you guys just say, all right, that's enough, we need to take care of business, and we're not letting them score anymore? Is that kind of just clamping down there?
Exactly, that was it. Everyone was kind of like, we were actually kind of surprised. We were thinking we were going to maybe do even a little better than 7. And when we gave up that 1 touchdown, we're just like, at first we were kind of like shocked. And then some of the senior leaders were like, you guys, it's just 7 points. Get your heads up. We're just, from here on out, just play your best game and see how it turns out. So that's what we did. And
now I want to get kind of both your guys' opinion on this. I talked with Coach about it in the first segment. Now, what's the feeling comparing after coming away with a convincing victory in week 1 this year, whereas last year you guys go on the road, lose a tough one, and lose some key players as well? This has to be definitely a sigh of relief. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that we all came away, especially young guys, are just kind of getting and gelling as an offense or as a defense. You get to play with the guys that some guys haven't started together, haven't run routes together as much, so you kind of get to have a little bit of cohesion without having a loss, which is tough. It's tough to come out of there and just feel like, well, what if we can't do this? And I think we bounced back quickly last year with the leadership we had, but I think this year it kind of takes those doubts away for us a little bit.
I'm just happy that we came away with no big injuries this time, and everyone's still healthy, and we're just ready to go.
A couple bumps and bruises, but nothing.
Well,
nothing
yeah,
like
that's
last year.
typical game stuff, but yeah.
Exactly. Well, one of the biggest building blocks for the Cardinal football program to such a convincing win in Week 1 was all the work done in the weight room in the offseason. We take a look at that blueprint in this week's Cardinal Corner. All right, we're here in Murner weight room, and we're with offensive line coach Stafford Davis. Stafford, you've been here since about February. What's kind of some of the stuff you're going to take us through today?
Some of the stuff that we're going to take you through today is our functional lifts as well as our compound lifts. You're going to basically get to see the difference between our in-season lifting and our off-season lifting.
One of the first lifts Coach Davis took us through, it's one that's been around in football weight training for decades, the squat.
He'll start the movement with his hips coming back first. And he presses his knees out, and as he comes back up, his knees are out. Now notice he's heavy on his heels. That's the biggest thing with the movement, is you want to stay heavy on these heels. As Matt comes down, he's heavy on the heels. As he comes back up, he's pressing on his heels.
The exercise helps players like All-American senior linebacker Matt Wenger explode when tackling ball carriers.
So the biggest thing with Matt is, and the biggest thing with the rest of our athletes, is we want to learn to have that two-leg explosion. Because even though football is played on one leg 80% of the time, there are times when you're firing off with both legs, bringing your hips, and firing through an offender. Like Matt, when he tackles a running back, you should see him, he explodes through him with both feet, and it's a beautiful thing, because one of the things in squats is you're pushing those hips back, and as those hips come forward, there's a lot of carryover from this movement to the field.
The goal of Cardinal lifting sessions isn't just brawn, it's functional strength that can be used on the field, as defensive back Derek Sulo demonstrates with Swiss ball leg curls.
The benefits that you see on the field is its balance. The problem with most football lifts is they attack the front half of the body. At North Central College, what we say is the front half of the body gets you dates, the back half wins you championships. As you're moving, as you're making cuts, the body needs to be stabilized. If it's not, you're going to fall flat on your face.
Veterans like Wenger and Sulo make movements like this look easy, but for newcomers to the program, the transition isn't so simple.
The biggest thing you'll see with a high school athlete is that their shoulders will roll forward and their head will roll forward. Now, how we fight that balance efficiency is we do a lot of movements to make sure that shoulder's coming back. This helps Will, who's a right tackle and pass pro. You don't want a right tackle leaning like this, he's going to get swum or ripped every time.
One of those movements is an exercise called back burns, where Cardinal athletes like tackle Will Thrun balance their arms in different positions with weights while keeping their body stable.
He's using all of his stabilizers in his back that are pulling his shoulders back and creating better posture for himself. So now he's getting ripped on Saturdays by a right end coming over the top of him.
The last exercise, the three-way Romanian deadlift performed by tight end Kyle Fedorowicz, is a simple movement that can translate to big success on the football field.
Now what this does, it hits the hamstrings 3 different ways, works a lot of core stabilization as well, and once again it works balance. That's what we strive for at North Central, is functional movements and balance. Because Kyle is a 6'7" tight end. He's going to be running to the left, running to the right. He might have to turn back around and catch a ball. We want to make sure we're hitting his hamstrings from all different angles to make sure that those muscles once again are strong, and to make sure that he doesn't hurt himself, and to also, the more balance he has, the more he's going to be able to cut and jump up in the air.
Coach, we appreciate you letting us hang out with you here, and we can't wait to see how it translates on the field.
I appreciate the time, Alex. It's been a pleasure.
Now, as we learned in the piece, one of the main themes of the Cardinal Strength Program isn't just to make you guys look good for the ladies. It's also about some functional movements that you guys can kind of see in the field when you're cutting, when you're moving. What have you guys seen from that? And do you see it when you're out on the field?
I know when I first got here last year, it was more just the bench, power clean, stuff like that, squat. But now we are doing, like you said, functional lift, and it's just, I felt in the spring when we were starting to do it, you just feel more athletic. You just can move different ways, and it's not just like always forward and up and down. It's like lateral and stuff like that. I feel more athletic at least.
So do you guys feel like it translates better?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing was not being so stiff. I mean, we always kind of laugh about I'm real stiff. That's just kind of how I run and how I move, and I think especially this year I feel probably the looser I've ever been. Still look pretty stiff on film, but
so kind of feel fluid when you're moving around, essentially.
Yeah, I think it helps quite a bit. I think we made some pretty good gains in the off season in that regard.
Yeah.
So,
Coach, what's some of the progress you've seen?
Well, for Joe, it showed up definitely. One of the early catches in the first quarter, he caught the ball, did a little jump stop one way, and made one guy miss. Did a couple moves here and made another guy miss, and went on down the sideline for a nice gain. And I just turned around the guys on the sideline and said, "Wow, now that's football right there. Let's make sure we all start playing like that." And to hear Joe talk about him being a little stiffer in the past. That probably did account for that. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was very fluid, very easily to move, and he does look a little bit more relaxed, you know, when he's running. This guy always runs fast. So we expected him to take the interception all the way to the house, but he didn't quite get it done. So now we got another thing we got to work on so we can get one of those. Those are kind of fun.
Exactly. Now, when we were kind of chit-chatting during the break, we talked about, 41-7. I was kind of joking. So you guys played pretty well. But you guys wanted more, didn't you? You kind of set a higher standard for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think our offense has set a goal beyond that. And I think we're kind of, the mentality a little bit is that we're not going to accept anything less. So we have work to do, and we're excited to meet that challenge.
Exactly. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us. Up next, we switch gears with just a tad, and we'll update you on all the other Cardinal sports teams when the Red Zone rolls on.